Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. I am your host, Patty Rose. My guest today is, I'm really excited about this, the general manager from the Eugene Emeralds, Allan Benavides. Allan, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk to you. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, this is really exciting for me. I worked at the Ems games for 4 years, all the way back in 96 to 2000 at Civic Stadium. So the Eugene Emeralds are near and dear to my heart. And so shout out to Sean Van Gordon for making this happen. Mayor Sean Van Gordon, he messaged me and said that you had met and talked about the potential relocation to Springfield, which we're going to talk about today. And he's like, hey, do you want to interview Allan from the M's? And I'm like, of course, like that would be amazing. So let's do that.
So you used to work for the team. We could have used you this summer. I mean, God, we need people.
Fortunately, I do have an actual career now. Yeah, as a barber. But you know, I've considered in the future, maybe next summer, I've considered doing that. Maybe I don't drink, but pouring beer, that would be kind of fun, you know, something like that. So
it's probably the most coveted game day job.
I know that I could imagine. And when I was a kid, the rules were a lot different, and I drank way too much at the games at 16 years old. I hope that's changed. So
yes, that has changed.
For
the OLCC, yes, yeah. If they're listening, that does not happen.
No, I couldn't believe some of the stuff we got away with back in those days. Anyways, let's move on. So let's talk first about the early days. You've been with the M since 2010 as the general manager, and really quick, a lot of people don't really have any concept of what this does, like what your job is. So explain to me everything that a general manager is tasked with doing.
Everything.
Yeah.
So, we manage, general manager, like in my position, I manage the team, the relationship with the affiliate, relationship with the city and the university. But as far as like my team is concerned, I have about 15 year-round employees at the short season level, expand to about 25, 30 employees year-round when we go full season, which we already are actually. And then we manage all our own food and beverage. We manage all of our concessions, all of our merchandise, all the sponsorships, all the ticket sales. And so I have directors in each one of those roles. I manage them, making sure that they're doing their job and performing as best they can, making sure that sales reports and, that we're working in the off season, make sure that our sponsors are done, tickets are done, groups, planning all of our events. I jokingly say that, running a baseball team is like running a wedding, almost like an event, like we're planning 38 weddings, right? Each event is got some plan or rhyme to it, right? Whether it's Star Wars night, whether it's Princess night, all those things take a lot of planning. And then we try to figure out, what groups would be good for those. Part of our business is we're very focused on group sales. And so we have a big effort in trying to get out into the community and working with schools, cities, corporations, churches, whatever it may be, to get people to come to the ballpark. And that's a big focus in our off season. Again, managing the relationship with the affiliate is a little different. That is something that, doesn't take the whole staff, but it's mostly me talking with the general manager, the farm director for the affiliate, whether it was the Padres, the Cubs, now the Giants, making sure that everything's being taken care of and we're hosting the players and doing all that properly. A lot of people think that like the general manager of a minor league baseball team is making the calls as to like who's playing second, who's playing. No, the big league club does all of that, right? I mean, so much so that a lot of those directives come directly from the farm director and GMs, and are, and they're told to our managers and who's playing and what's the lineup look like.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of that happens direct from the big league club. So,
yeah. So back in my day, the general manager was Bob Beban. He was with the organization for 29 years, a staple in Eugene. And so when you got this job, now that you've been here for 10 years, I think it's really great because it shows that you're into it, like that you're here to stay. A lot of times when there's different things, especially in a world like minor league baseball, with a manager or with maybe a scouting director or whatnot, their goal is to move up. When you got the position, did you think that 10 years later you'd be sitting here still? I mean, not still, but want to be here,
Yeah, I mean, Bob was the GM for
29 years,
damn near 30 years, right? Like, for me, this position is something that I want to stay here for a long time. And I knew that from day one. I've known this, being a AAA GM and being a short season A GM, you're still a GM, right?
Sure.
I mean, the job's not much different other than this capacity of the stadium. There was never an illusion that I wanted to leave. for me, like taking this job, moving away from my family in Southern California was we were going to make this home. Yeah. So there was never, I get that question a lot. I've had opportunities to leave. I've had opportunities to go to AA and AAA. I really like Eugene, and I have no intentions of leaving.
Yeah, it's huge. As a barber, I've had a lot of people over the last couple of weeks come in and that work for the M's. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be having Allan on the show, and everyone talks very highly. And when there's that consistency and loyalty, people will, they'll perform because they know that it's like, okay, we're in this for the long haul. That's really cool. So now when you first came on, one of the things that you really wanted to do was kind of rebrand, and that's, adding the Squatch was a big thing. And I read an article where you were quoted as saying something needed to be done to freshen things up because, quote, at the time we were brought to you by the color green and the letter M because, the M's. So talk about what your vision was with rebranding and why you wanted to kind of bring life to a minor league baseball team.
So, you talk about Bob, taking over for he's a legend, right? I mean, I remember saying when I got hired, it's going to be tough to pull out of his shadow because Bob had been here for so long, right? And he had really changed the game as far as hospitality. In fact, you know how we do all those pregame picnics and all that stuff? Bob came up with that, and he took it to the industry. Now all the teams do it, but Bob was the guy who created that. But you couldn't find two different GMs though. We're polar opposites of each other. Bob was a AAA umpire at one point. Just knows the game incredibly. It's all about baseball. And while I love baseball, grew up playing baseball, my job isn't focused on the game of baseball. I know that sounds weird, right? But my game is really about creating the entertainment and the fun. And look, I'll say it, baseball's boring. Some people think it's super boring. I love the game when you understand it and the strategy behind it. But, let's be honest, it's a little slow sometimes. But what we want to do is we want to create an environment where everybody has a good time, whether it's mom, the kids, the fun zone, Sluggo, the promotions, the beer, the music, and then baseball, right? And so that's always been my focus is just entertainment, making it fun. And we've gotten a lot of awards for that over the years. And when we came in with the brand, when I took over in 2010, there were 160 minor league teams at the time. And our merchandise sales ranked 148th in the country. And so I was like, something's got to change. And we couldn't do anything to our logo or brand until the year 2013. That's when the trademark expired. We had to be consistent with that. And so in 2012, we started doing some research and wanted to brand the team. And really the Emeralds were the Eugene Emeralds because of the Emerald Valley and the color green. How do you brand yourself around the color green, right? It's tough, without changing the name. We had a really tough time figuring out how do we make the brand cooler, right? And so we worked with a company called Grandiose. They came up. We had a bunch of discussions. We went to Lane County Museum. We talked to people in this community, and we just started talking about what lives in the Emerald Valley. We talked about we almost had a gnome. We had beavers. We couldn't do that in Eugene. We had you can think about anything you can find in the forest that we were considering, and then all of a sudden we were like Sasquatch. And so he's at the games, and we incorporated him into our logo, and you can see a Sasquatch sighting at the games if certain things happen. And so we kind of have fun with the brand and changed it up, and now we're in the top 75.
Yeah, it's been a hit. I know that, I like on sports video games, I like to create teams. And when you're searching through the logos, you'll always see the M's logos now, so that means it's hitting a national audience, which is cool. Yeah. Promotions are huge. And when you had taken over from afar, just as a fan watching, I was kind of like, whoa, these are way different types. Like you're saying, completely changing the whole style. And it's really popular in minor league baseball to do these goofy kind of nights, like bring your dog to the park day. That's got to be an interesting one. How many people bring their dogs? 100 dogs?
No, it's several hundred. It was 50 the first year, but several hundred now. I mean, we live in a market where over 50% of the households have dogs.
Right.
It's a super dog-friendly town, right? This year we did 2 dog nights. We considered making every night dog night. And it's still something we talk about every year. It's like, why don't we just make it a dog-friendly ballpark?
That would be awesome.
Know? We just haven't, we haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but it's something we should consider every year.
So now, one of the challenges of promotions is copyright. So I know one of the most popular nights that's brought me to the park is Star Wars night.
Oh yeah.
And so the name of it, you guys have to kind of question, you've been kind of tasked with calling it something else. Is that right?
No. So Star Wars nights are still Star Wars nights. We just couldn't do them this year because of COVID and some of the regulations that were in place by MLB and Lucas.
Okay.
So we have to go through Lucasfilms to get approval to do Star Wars nights. They actually tell us what nights we can do and whatnot. And so we have to make a donation. We don't have to pay Lucas anything. They just want to make sure they protect the brand.
Sure.
And this only started maybe like 4 or 5 years ago where we had to work with Lucas. And back in the old days, in the Wild West, as we call it, you could do whatever. We would do a Star Wars night and it'd be fine. Once Star Wars got sold to like Disney and things got tightened down a little bit, we had to be careful how we did Star Wars nights. I'll give you an example. So we have all these guidelines of when we have characters come in, like they have to be approved by Lucas, so the 501st Garrison out of Portland is who comes down. But like, we got to make sure that like Darth Vader doesn't throw a first pitch because Darth Vader wouldn't throw a first pitch. It's not in his character, right? Luke Skywalker would. So Luke Skywalker, so we have to like follow these kinds of things. And it's kind of silly, but at the same time, they're just trying to protect their brand. And it's easily one of our most popular promotions. It's actually bigger than the 4th of July.
Yeah. Wow.
It's huge.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And jumping through those hoops, though, frustrate or, maybe a headache, but it's probably worth it. I'm sure.
Oh, it's way worth it. We would have done, we'd do Star Wars night every night if we could. It's that big. It's that popular.
Yeah, that's cool. And I'm sure that, the jerseys, the uniforms that get auctioned off, that's a huge hit too, Yes. So any memorabilia is just, wild.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with Lucasfilm, when we do Star Wars night, we do the jersey sales. When we sell them, we got to donate all the proceeds. We can't keep any of the net revenue.
Yeah.
So we donate all that to Children's Miracle Network.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So let's talk about COVID. You'd mentioned it a little bit. The challenges, losing a season, and then when things open back up, it seems like, I follow the Eugene Emeralds Facebook page, and it seems like every week there was like an update like, okay, we're going to have 25% capacity, and you're going to be sitting next to cardboard cutouts, or maybe 50% capacity, okay, full capacity. What has that been like? That challenge, and then where were you feeling as far as when the season was over? Did you think that was the end for the M's?
When the season was, which way? Let's
start with just the uncertainty week by week.
So with COVID, so this year when it hit, we were in 2020, March of 2020. Well, gosh, what year are we? 21.
I think it's still 2020 now. No, but anyway.
Yeah. So the uncertainty of COVID, we lost the whole season. That was really hard. As far as the whole live event sector, concerts, performing arts, baseball, sports in general, like live events, we got crushed. There wasn't like a rescue plan for live, like baseball. Like we just got crushed. We had PPP money that helped us survive a little bit, but we had to cut 50% of our sales force. And that was tough because a lot of the guys that were with us have been with us for at least 5 years. We don't have a lot of turnover. We don't churn employees. People love being here with the team. And I think that's a testament to what we do as a business, some of the leadership that we have, and some great people. So that was really hard, and we lost them. And, come this year, a lot of those folks got other jobs and come back. So we had to rely on a brand new crop of interns, and our current staff ended up taking up a lot more of the load because we really couldn't hire a bunch of people, starting the season off with 0 fans, then 500, and then 750. And then what got tough was, we were told that, you could only bring in a certain number socially distanced. Well, that changes the dynamic of how you seat people with season seats who want their current seats, but you can't put them there because 6 feet distancing, blah, 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 it becomes a big pain. And people got upset that we had to move them, but for the most part, everybody was really helpful. And then came the where we could bring like 1,500 fans if we did vaccinated and unvaccinated sections, right? And so our vaccinated sections didn't count towards any sort of capacity, which is why we could blow up to 1,500 fans, but we had to have an unvaccinated section as well. Well, I don't think I've ever gotten more hate mail than when we did vaccinated and unvaccinated sections. Being called Nazis, being called segregationists, being called, like every name you could think of, right? As to why we're doing this. And, we were a business that was just trying to open and get as many people in as we could, right? We were struggling, and we were doing everything we could to increase capacity. That's where we were at. And the funny thing is, July 1st, the governor says, everything's open, like, let's go back to normal. And then we got the opposite. We got everybody pissed off at us that we weren't doing vaccinated only sections. And, what are you gonna do to protect my kid that's not vaccinated? What are you gonna do to protect, it's like, you just couldn't make anybody happy, right? Yeah. That was really difficult. Then come early August, Delta variant comes in. And like towards the end of July, we had, I think, 3 or 4 sellouts. Like things were starting to feel like, okay, here we are. We're getting back at it. It feels good. Delta variant hits and cancellations just started happening. Attendance fell off a cliff. And we're kind of back at that, like, feels like mid-June kind of like level, right? So, we have 4 games left. We're making everybody mask up. And hopefully we can get through this, and hopefully next year it's a little better.
Yeah, and I had alluded a little bit to a rumor of potentially losing the team. So now that has more to do.
Yeah.
Would you say that has more to do with the fact that, Major League Baseball was cutting single A short season? Yeah. And so it was kind of up in the air, like what was going to happen with the whole league.
This is more complicated than COVID. I mean, I don't want to get too crazy into it because it takes forever.
Sure.
But Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, essentially the agreement between the two groups ceased September of 2020.
Right.
So after we didn't have a season, that relationship ceased to exist. Major League Baseball took over minor league baseball essentially and created their own system, which is the Professional Development League, which is what we know as minor league baseball. And in that system, they got rid of 40 teams. They got rid of 40 of the 160 teams. So now there's only 120 teams left. And we had heard that all a short season was going away. Rookie ball was going away. We were really like concerned about, are we going to, what's going to happen to us? We had no idea. Come December, the list is put out and we made the cut.
Wow.
Super excited. But not all the teams in our league made the cut. Our league in the Northwest League was 8 teams. And we had the Boise Hawks and the Salem Kaiser Volcanoes. They got cut. Yeah. And so now there's only 6 of us in this league. And we went from 76 total games to 132 in the non-COVID year.
Wow.
Is what we're moving to. This year we did 120. But, next year we'll be at 132 games. Starting in early April, finishing in mid-September.
Yeah. So it was a pretty wild roller coaster to see as a fan. Just the little bit of updates we would get here, from the local news and whatnot. At one point, they're like, okay, there could potentially not be a team. And then the next thing, it's like, now we're moving up. So, I'm glad that it's moving on. Now, you talk about next season adding games. One of the big challenges is PK Park, so is there a plan in place for next season where you'll be playing?
We'll be playing at PK. So we'll be playing at PK for at least the next 2 years.
Okay.
As we try to figure out the stadium solution. A lot of people think that it's, this like scheduling issue and why can't we make PK work? Well, there's a variety of issues. Scheduling is one of the big ones, but facilities are another big one. There's only one locker room at PK. Our game is changing. We need facilities for women coaches, women trainers, women umpires. None of that exists at the current ballpark. So there's a framework of what we need as a stadium that Major League Baseball requires, and PK Park, aside from the field and the wall and the dugouts, doesn't meet any of those standards.
Yeah.
And so we have a sunset of 3 years of that. This needs to be fixed. And that's what we're currently doing is we're trying to secure a location, trying to figure out the funding of how we're going to build a new stadium that can host events 365 days out of the year. Now we're not going to do an event every year, but we'd like to host something where we can host our 66 games, do some concerts, do some large events for the high schools, graduations, Christmas events, Halloween events, and really make it a fun facility for the community.
Yeah, so there's been some talk about potentially moving to Springfield. I know right now there's nothing concrete, but what does that process look like? As far as how would you How would that be? I mean, the funding, that element of it. Would taxpayers have to be paying for that, or would it be completely funded by the team?
Yeah. So we have to build a stadium roughly, we don't have a site, so it's hard to say how much it's going to cost, but we're going to imagine it's going to cost anywhere between 35 to 45 million dollars to build the stadium, right? Hopefully a stadium that can seat roughly 4,000 people with another 2,000 in picnics and like a berm area around the outfield is what we'd like to see. So 6,000 total. Work as the team, we're coming in with 25% of the build. So whatever that is, we're probably going to put in about 25%. And then we're hoping that we can get some of the rest of it done through either some federal dollars through ARPA or through some state bonding, some video lottery bonds. We're looking at economic redevelopment money that can help build the stadium. The one thing, we don't really have time to go to a vote and like put this whole, bond out or whatever that the voters could vote on. We just don't have time for that.
Sure.
We're going to lose the team. We got to build this in like 30 months. And so we're hoping that we can maybe talk about getting some hotel tax that can help build a stadium for the community that can also draw in more events for the local hotels and whatnot. So we do think there's a path forward. And there has to be, because we can't lose this team. Like this team is way too important.
Oh yeah.
For the community. And we believe that we do a really good job throughout the year with all the community support that we've done since I've gotten here. We've been very active in the community and want to continue to help support this community, give back, and put on some good events for the families and locals of Eugene, Springfield.
Yeah. And, I think that Springfield would love to step up and have it. We'll see. There's been a lot of talk. There was the indoor track that was supposed to happen, kind of fell through, and there's a property there, kind of deeper into Springfield. But also, I've been reading some stuff about riverfront property in Glenwood. Yeah. I actually think that would make a lot of sense. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I'll be having Mayor Sean Van Gordon on the podcast on the 18th, and I'll talk to him more about it. But I was under the impression that Glenwood is kind of annexed by Springfield, so that's technically almost part of Springfield. But location-wise, I think it would make so much sense. Traffic, if it's way deep into Springfield, would be interesting to see how it all plays out. I've been hearing all these crazy rumors. The M's moving to Springfield. We're hearing In-N-Out Burger possibly moving to Springfield. It's pretty wild. I grew up in Springfield, so it'd be kind of interesting to see some of those changes.
Yeah. The Glenwood property is something we're still considering. I know that we had pulled out of the Cedar property back in April, but we're still considering strongly looking into the Glenwood property. I mean, that footprint of a stadium in that river bend would be unbelievable, an incredible setting, probably one of the prettiest settings I can think of in minor league baseball, but also the proximity to downtown Springfield, the closeness to Eugene, off the freeway. Like it makes a lot of sense, but these aren't things that are, it's going to take a lot of work to figure that out. So
would that be, just theoretically, that the center field, from home plate, you'd be facing the river?
That's ideally what we would want. Yeah.
That would be amazing. Like in the Giants, obviously is the affiliate. So the Giants stadium, there's people on,
well,
there'd be people sitting out there in rafts and whatnot, catching home run balls. That would be incredible.
Yeah. That's, if we're just talking, dreaming, right? Like how cool would that be to have some rafts out there, people in kayaks, see home run balls hit out there, right? I mean,
that'd be cool. It's always funny to me when you look at minor league, any sports level, especially baseball, where somebody would be up in a tree out. I know that there's some traditions like in Wrigley Field where people like are in apartments and stuff, but it always cracked me up at Civic Stadium when I was working there years and years ago. Because these people would be climbing a tree and they'd be watching from outside the stadium. I'm like, dude, it's $6. Like seriously, like it's $6. And I mean, obviously that was a long time ago in inflation and it's more now, but it's still very affordable and it's a great thing to take the family to. One thing I've always loved about the M's is that there's a perfect balance between family fun and alcohol. And so they blend it really well. Civic Stadium was so cool. But I'm a fan of PK Park. It took me a while. I was pretty bitter. Because of the kind of conflict between the Eugene Emeralds and the University of Oregon. The University of Oregon just pushes and does whatever they want. So I was bitter, and then of course when Civic Stadium burnt down, it was like a loss in the family. I mean. Yeah,
I didn't. I just want to touch on that a little bit. I didn't recognize as an outsider in 2010 how important that place was. Moving here from Southern California, right? I mean, that place. You can't replace it. You it's irreplaceable. It's the memories and like that old wooden structure and the sound and the energy it gave out is something that we cannot create at PK Park. And so we create something different. However, people really love that old ballpark. And I'll always remember when I first took over, we lost 75% of our season ticket holders moving from Civic Stadium to PK. 75%.
Yeah.
I think in any other part of the country, almost any other part of the country, a new ballpark would attract new fans.
Yeah.
In Eugene, Oregon, we lost fans, because one of the reasons was a lot of people told us, that it was hard for me to understand at the time, but this one gentleman, I'll never forget him. He says, he goes, when you guys ripped the team out of Eugene and Civic Stadium and put it with the University of Oregon, he goes, I'll never forgive you for that. He's what he told me. And I'm like, and I don't know, like the conflict and the parameters around the love-hate relationship between whatever in town, right? But like him telling me that and saying that you took the one thing that was strictly Eugene, and that's it. Thing.
And that's exactly it.
And the Eugene Emeralds were our thing, and now you've placed it with the Ducks, and I'll never forgive you.
No, and that's exactly it. And that's exactly what I've always said, that I'm a Duck fan. I root for the Ducks. But there's the Ducks, and that's Oregon's thing, and then there's the Eugene Emeralds, and it's Eugene and Springfield. It's us, Yeah. But and then, it's like with PK Park, you started seeing a little bit more duck polos. And there's something about the duck polo that turns a lot of people off. I wear duck polos, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I got here too, right?
But to certain people, they're like, I'm a little bit more punk rock than that. I'm a little bit more of a hippie or whatever it is, that they just, there's something about it. At Civic Stadium, you had the woman with her little cowbell, and it's just.
She's still there.
Yeah, exactly. But you guys have done a really, really good job. And I'm one of those people, I wasn't a season ticket holder, I'm not going to lie. But I was somebody that was pretty bitter, and I didn't know. At the time, I had a lot to learn about everything, but I didn't know where to direct my frustration with it. And I know more now that it's not like you ripped the team. There's so many challenging decisions that were, being made on the fly, and some of it is out of your power.
Patty, had we still been at Civic Stadium, I promise you this, and say it didn't burn down, and say we were still at Civic Stadium the last 12 years. We would have been cut.
Yeah.
When Major League Baseball reduced the number, PK Park in many respects saved the team from getting cut.
Visually,
Even though the facilities aren't up to standard, the playing surface, the one locker room we get to use it, the hitting facility, those are all things that matter to Major League Baseball, because for them it's about development. In the field, in the playability of PK Park, far superior to what it was at Civic Stadium. And we would have been cut.
Yeah, it photographs pretty well. I know that. I mean, it's a beautiful stadium. It really is. And at night, It's awesome, So, I mean, that's the thing with a new stadium and an old stadium. It's like there's pros and cons to both. Now, speaking of Civic Stadium burning down, for once and for all, is there a conspiracy?
Are you serious?
No,
I did not pay those kids to burn it down.
Yeah, I've heard. I know. I've heard so many things that they're like, they burnt it down. They did it. But
who's they?
It doesn't even matter anymore. It's whoever you want they to be is who they is in today's world, right? It's like the opposite of me is who they is.
Yeah. We, what's funny, we have a big sponsor in Fred Meyer who was trying to build that Fred Meyer out. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember all that? And we didn't get really involved with Civic Stadium and the site because we couldn't touch it. Like if we were in favor of this or that, like people were like, you left it. We don't care what your opinion is. So we never talked about it, right? But once it burnt down and recognized that maybe it might turn into this, disaster, once the city gave it to Civic Alliance, we got involved. And we donated $250,000 to help get the stadium. It hadn't burnt down at the time yet. It burnt down like 3 months after we got involved and donated some money. And then we thought that they were going to be able to save it. And then it burnt down and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But now with what they've turned it into for the kids,
oh my God,
I think the legacy of Civic Stadium and having that site still there for kid sports and what Bev Smith's doing, I am so proud of what they've done to build that for the community. It's a fantastic
Absolutely.
spot.
Absolutely. They couldn't have done anything better.
Yeah.
And no knock on Fred Meyer. I just think that there's nothing that could have been done better than what they've done.
No, for sure.
And so,
I mean, I wish we had a little baseball. The I don't know if you noticed, but like the rubber and the plate, they have markers of where Civic Stadium was.
Wow.
And so it's on the field there, so they still recognize that and hold that. So
yeah, my job was the third base picnics, and I got to
because were those the big ones? Were those the large ones?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not. No. I don't honestly. I don't think so. I think they were a little bit smaller. It was a little bit less amenities on the third base side, but it was still awesome. And I managed the picnics after my first year, so I was able to drive the golf cart. And so one time, I was trying to be a hothead and impress some girls, and I didn't look, and I turned a corner and I slammed into a fire truck. It was pretty wonderful.
No.
Yeah, I've got some fun stories about the M's. We have
this great picture of Civic Stadium at the picnics where like there's like 3 or 4 guys standing behind a table and like remember those old plastic Bi-Mart tables they used to have all down there, right?
Oh yeah.
80 beer cups, those 8-ounce cups filled with beer. I'm like there was no limit, right? There weren't any rules.
No, you had a certain amount of time that you could wait in line to get beer, and you could have 2 at a time, but as long as you were in line, you could get more. So people would grab 2, set them down, go back in line. They'd be drinking one.
That was the rule?
Yeah, it was pretty loose, and it was amazing. My whole life changed because I lived in Springfield and I worked at the M's games. And my first day of training, there was this blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl with a Public Enemy t-shirt. And I'm like, I'm going to marry that girl. I didn't. Shout out to Stephanie Green. I didn't, but we're still good friends to this day. But she went to South Eugene High School. I met her. I was like, wow, I met some of her friends. I'm like, I'm transferring schools. So I transferred to South, and it totally was the best thing that could have happened to me. So there's so many memories that it put my life in a direction that, because of the Eugene Emeralds. So I always have a fond memory of working there. So yeah, Allan, it's really great to chat with you today. I'm excited about seeing what happens in the future. I'm supportive of the Glenwood situation. I'll talk to Mayor Sean Van Gordon on the 18th, and I'll see what kind of sway that I can have. None. But
come on.
So hey, thanks for chatting with me today. One more thing I want to talk about that's really interesting.
Yeah, what do you want, man?
Playoffs. No, playoffs are around the corner. You said you had 4 games left. This could be really interesting. PK Park, there is scheduling conflicts if the playoffs come to fruition. So what's that going to look like? If you make the playoffs, will you be playing on the road?
Yeah. So if we make playoffs, we can't host any of our games at PK Park because it falls outside of our parameter, our lease. Our lease ends September 10th, and the Ducks got to get in and do their fall camp. The Ducks have unfiltered practices for 2 weeks before the school year starts for them. And so we have to be out. So if we play Spokane, we're going to play all 5 games in Spokane. 2 of them will be the home team, but playing in Spokane. If we play Everett, we'll be in Everett. So just know if you want to watch the M's play in the playoffs and possibly win another championship, which we've done a couple times since it won't be at home. And so that's the new world we live in, which is why we need a stadium, which is why we need to find a home of our own and kind of get back to our roots and bring the team back to the community.
Yeah. And it'll create a lot of opportunity, a lot of jobs, like you said, 66 games or whatever it is, home games a year, but that's not the only thing that would be at the stadium.
It's not the only thing. I mean, we have some economic feasibility stuff, and a year-round stadium is going to bring about 290 full-time equivalent jobs.
Yeah.
It's a big employer.
Yeah.
So,
and then, I'm excited about the idea of outdoor events, especially if it ends up in Springfield, because there's not really a spot for that. I mean, I guess Island Park does some events, that are fun, but a stadium.
Can you imagine outdoor show at PK Park on the Bend, no effects, takes the stage? It's going to be epic.
That would be incredible. Yeah. And they are getting pretty old and sloppy, just like all of us. But
they're still great.
Yeah. So you're from LA. So you're definitely from the SoCal area that, I grew up with No Effects. We had talked about that off air. That's my favorite band. And I got to see them in Denver recently. And man, they are definitely sloppy. But, a lot of it they said that they hadn't practiced in 2 years, because of COVID and stuff. And so I'm happy to see some shows happening, Cuthbert opening up and like you had talked about the challenges of vaccine cards and all that stuff. It's really difficult. Hopefully we're going to get to a point where you either are vaccinated or you're infected. And so then hopefully maybe then it starts to finally pass. I don't know. We're in for
We will get through this. I don't know what the answer is either, man.
None of us do. It's pretty challenging, but
super challenging.
So you got 4 games left. When's the last game?
So we're back home September 7th through 8th, 9th, and 10th. 10th is a doubleheader. We're giving away these really cool caps on September 10th, designed by Mr. Chris Rohaley out of Area 51 Tattoo in Springfield.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he designed the caps for us. That's on the 10th. And then we're doing our baseball card set giveaway on the 8th, which is Wednesday. And we're doing a suicide prevention night on Tuesday. And then our last Thirsty Thursday, which is the most popular night, outside of Star Wars night, is going to be on the 9th.
Suicide prevention night. That is amazing that you do that. You know, I've spotlighted suicide prevention on the podcast a couple times with Sarah Schofield, and so that's near and dear to my heart. So that's really cool that you guys do some of those social causes. I know it kind of causes some issues. I know Pride Night, people were like, but it was a wonderful day. So.
I don't care.
I know.
We're going to do Pride Nights. We're going to do Juneteenth. We're going to do Monarchist baseball.
Yeah.
We're going to use our platform to put out a message of love and hope and all the good things I think we have an opportunity to talk about. Some people say just play baseball. Well, we do play baseball. Just watch the game.
Totally. If you're not into it, just focus on the field. Exactly. Yeah. Well, Allan, it's really great to chat with you. I appreciate it. I'm going to end this with a song. My new album, Begin Again, comes out on Spotify September 9th. If you'd like to listen to it and buy a copy of the digital download, you can do that today, though, at strpod.com/beginagain. So I'm going to end this with the title track called Begin Again. So, once again, Allan Benavides, thank you very much. It's been wonderful talking to you. This is me, Patty Rose, with Begin Again.
I feel it in my soul. I feel it in my bones. Attack, face the facts, I can't relax, the monkey is on my back. Face the facts, I can't relax, the anxiety attack. Face the facts, I can't relax, the monkey is on my back. Face the facts, I can't relax, the anxiety attack. Face the facts, I can't relax, the monkey is on my back. Face the facts, I can't relax, the anxiety attack. Face the facts, I can't relax. My brain, and I'm gonna lose it all. I'm gonna lose it all. I'm stuck inside my brain. Oh, I'm stuck inside my brain, and I'm gonna lose it all. I'm gonna lose it all. Let me begin again. Let me repent my sins.